Welcome back to the channel, everyone. We're finally back. And like I said, like I promised, the next time we talk on this channel, it's going to be about real football. The New York Jets, the first team to fully report. The rookies and veterans have reported to training camp today, and their first practice session will be tomorrow. Now, we know this was a team who was kind of forced on the Hard Knocks show, and they talked about not giving the same access as previous Hard Knocks shows have gave. And, I sense a sense of humility in that decision and looking at some of the things they've done and how they have moved about this process. I checked out an interview with Sauce Gardner and just looking at how he talks. And my question going into this season with the trade was, how will Aaron Rodgers, and how quickly should I say, will he mesh with this new team? Because there are some young guys here. There's a mixture of different personalities and guys in this room. Now, you got two young rookies who have had success in the NFL, and I'm talking about Garrett and Sauce. So now, seeing how he's extending himself, how he's exerting more energy than we've seen from Aaron Rodgers in the past to build that relationship with these guys, that's telling me some good things. Now, this is a team who some people, and I'm one of the guys, see as a top tier contender. And I think the question for me is, in that AFC East, it's very competitive. I love the Miami Dolphins. I love the Buffalo Bills with the tad bit of question marks. So seeing that, now I'm focusing on looking at this team. I see Aaron Rodgers, and really with training camp coming up before we start tomorrow, I want to give a final preview and some of the things to watch. So you see by the title, training camp, what to expect. Now, starting off with Aaron Rodgers. He's Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he's a four-time MVP, a Super Bowl champion. How much of an introduction does he need? And thinking about last year, what he was able to do. Now, we say last year was a terrible year for the Green Bay Packers, and it wasn't the year that we usually see from the Green Bay Packers. It wasn't winning the North. It wasn't that type of season for them, but it was still a fairly solid season by most regards. And looking at that offense, even though they weren't clicking and hitting on all cylinders, we got to think about the injuries they had on the offensive line and thinking about how he had those young receivers and he was able to elevate those guys by the end of that season. Think about Romeo Dobbs. Think about Christian Watkins, what he did with his veteran buddy Randall Cobb. So now I want to talk about these weapons, and I think that there's a lot of weapons on this team. And contrary to what some people may think, when I look at the New York Jets, I see a team who's going to run the football. And I was looking at this running back room: Breece Hall, Michael Carter, Israel Abanikanda, Zonovan Knight. I see a team who's four deep. Yeah, I mean, truly four deep in the running back room. We see guys, and we look at guys, maybe in that third to fourth. Now we're getting into a lack of experience. And Abanikanda is a rookie, but still looking at the talent in this room, I think you got four guys who can contribute and who can play early and often. Now, the key thing about these guys, they're all versatile. Breece Hall, a guy who may have stolen that award from his teammate Garrett Wilson if he did not get hurt. Michael Carter, a back who got some touches last year. Zonovan Knight. So now we bring in Abanikanda, and you know what this is telling me? Along with the selection of Joe Tippmann, this is a team that wants to run wide zone. This is a team that's going to use a lot of zone blocking and a lot of move blocking to get guys on the move. Thinking about the athletic center that Joe Tippmann is. We talk about John Michael Schmitz, the comparison with him and Joe Tippmann. Joe Tippmann is a different type of athlete, especially at that size, being one of the taller centers in the game. So now I'm loving what I'm going to see from this run game. And I think with training camp tomorrow, we're going to see some of those things kind of early and often, looking at the schemes and looking at how they use these guys differently. So now we kind of want to question, what are the personnel packages? What will we lean on? And I'm thinking that tight ends will be an integral part to this offense. Now I look at Tyler Conklin, CJ Uzama, Jeremy Rutgert, Zach Kuntz. So Zach Kuntz being one of the later picks, but he's a guy who has a lot of traits, a lot of talent. He's about 6'8", 250 plus. And thinking about what he can do in that frame, I really want to see what he does in training camp, because if he can put it all together, we're looking at a steal, and we're looking at one of the potentially most freakish tight ends that this game has to offer even now. So I really want to see what they do from that standpoint, but I'm expecting a lot of 12 personnel, running back, 2 tight ends, and looking at how they do that. And now we look at this receiver room. This receiver room is pretty stacked. I mean, as far as top tier elite performers, there's not a lot of those guys, but I look at Garrett Wilson, a guy who we're expecting to jump. Now, a lot of what we're looking at with this team, we're thinking about projecting. And rightfully so, because Aaron Rodgers is a guy who we're expecting to elevate these backs in the receiving game, elevate these wide receivers in the receiving game. But when we talk about these guys, Garrett Wilson, I don't really have a lot of questions about Garrett Wilson. Now, they kept Corey Davis, one of the veterans who was very good with the Tennessee Titans. So will he make a room for himself in this receiver room? Alan Lazard, one of Rodgers' guys coming over. Randall Cobb, one of Rodgers' guys coming over. So worst case scenario, he's going to have guys on the football field who he's played a lot of snaps with. And that's the best thing to make your guy feel comfortable. Now, McCole Hardman Jr., kind of the X factor and the guy who I'm really watching in this room in training camp, because we know what he is. The guy who was seeing that when Tyreek Hill was having some things going on for the Kansas City Chiefs, he was seen as a guy who could come in and replicate some of what he did in that scheme. So right there, that tells you what type of traits type guy that we have off the jump. Now, we think about developing his game. Now, of course, in this season, how long he's been in the NFL, we do want to see some of that development. That hasn't happened yet, but I think Aaron Rodgers, another guy who can still develop him, and thinking about what he can do. Now, with him, the biggest thing is health, seeing how healthy he can stay for this team. But I think if he stays healthy, he's going to carve himself out a very good role for these guys. Now, Denzel Mims, one of those bigger guys, height, speed, weight. So we think about what he can do and all the traits that he has. There are some receivers in this room that I look at across the board. So either way, like I said, worst case scenario, he's going to be feeling very comfortable with his weapons. Garrett Wilson trying to take that next step, and I love the room. But I think when we look at the offensive line, this is kind of where I get a bit shaky. And what I want to say is, hypothetically, if all of these guys, barring health, stay healthy, this is a solid offensive line and a good offensive line that I like. But that is the question. And I think when we say there's no true weaknesses to this team, we're kind of neglecting the offensive line here with the New York Jets, because Dwayne Brown, a very, very solid veteran guy, but he's in the back end of his career. We know he may have 1 or 2 years left of NFL football. Makai Beckham, he's a monster, an absolute freak, especially in the run game, but he has to stay healthy. Now, I've seen some pictures and some workout videos of Makai Beckham getting way more in shape, doing different things, trying to prepare himself and stay healthy for the upcoming season. But can he do it? Hopefully he can for this team, because that's a difference changer. That's one of the guys who can really make an impact on this offensive line. And even when he's been healthy, we've saw the impact that he's made. Now, Elijah Vera Tucker, don't have a lot of questions about him. A guy who has inside-outside versatility, one of the best in the game because he's so flexible. And we all question, was he kind of that jack of all trades, master of none? But we see when he's kicked inside, he's a different type of beast. So he's going to do that same thing for this team. Now, Laken Tomlinson and kind of Connor McGovern, because I'm questioning who's going to be that true rock at the left guard position. So that's something I want to see in training camp. We still got some guys behind him as well, but I'm kind of expecting Joe Tippmann to come in and start at center. And if he doesn't, then we still have Connor McGovern, but he's one of the more versatile guys. So something I had to watch when that signing came about. Now, about the defense, I mean, the defense is special. And of course, I'm watching the defense in training camp, but I could just list off all of the guys. John Franklin Myers, looking at Jermaine Johnson, a guy who could have even went way higher than he went in the draft out of Florida State, went the JUCO route and still made it. You know, Quentin Jefferson, Quininen Williams, a guy who got his money, something they were looking at and something that had kind of had this team on pause, but that got done. So Carl Lawson, Will McDonald. Now, Will McDonald, my eyes are on him in training camp. And in OTAs, mini camps, I've seen some of his drills and some of the things he's been doing. That bend is definitely there. And I think about the guys, the special pass rushers, the Von Millers, the Myles Garretts, the TJ Watts, and we think about how these guys have been able to get these special off-the-chart sack numbers. And it's that bend. You know, we got the power rushers who also have their own place in this league, and that's the Nick and Joey Bosa's and guys like that. But when you have that bend, it's so much easier, and he's one of the guys that has it. And I say it because not a lot of people in the NFL have it. So I want to know what he does for this team and how early will it be impactful, because I think he's going to be a big part in the rotation, and maybe even by the end of the year, he could be starting on this team. So like I said, you have to love the defensive line. You have to love the depth on the interior. Solomon Thomas, Al Woods. And then we get to the linebacker, CJ Mosley, a guy who can get all pro or Pro Bowl any year, barring health. So now Jamie Sherwood, Zaire Barnes, the rookie, Chaz Surratt, another young backer in this room. So I like the starters, especially with Quincy Williams, Quinnen Williams' brother. So we want to see how can these guys in the depth really step up and be confident in the depth for the coaching staff, because we know what the starters can do. We saw a lot of it last year, but I'm looking at a Surratt. I'm looking at a Hansman Nasruddin, who was a safety convert, coming over to the linebacker position. Will he be one of the more athletic guys, kind of a dime backer, kind of that nickel package backer? Will he find himself and carve him out a role? Because I loved him at safety, and there were some question marks coming out of Florida State, but still a very good football player. And then I transitioned to the secondary. I mean, how much and what can I say? Sauce Gardner, does he need an introduction? The first guy in 41 years to be an all-pro corner as a rookie, and he was first team. So now Adrian Amos, another savvy veteran that Aaron Rodgers has played with as well. So now DJ Reed, one of the best cornerback duos in the NFL. And I was having this conversation with some people talking about the best cornerback duos in the NFL. And I'm not going to get into that in this video, but this is one of those guys and one of those duos who are up there when I look at Sauce, DJ Reed, amongst other guys in the NFL. So now Jordan Whitehead, Ashton Davis, we got some pretty solid depth there. Looking at everything we can do, Bryce Hall in the cornerback room, I feel very confident about this team. And like I said, some things that I'm looking at, and really with the depth at the linebacker position, some of the depth at the secondary, and the offensive line, I just want to see it gel. I want to see it mesh, and I want to see all those guys healthy. But overall, I feel really good about this team. A lot of the things that I'm going to say will come once we hit the field and talk about training camp. But this is just some of the quick things that I want to touch on. Quick review and kind of what I'm expecting. So below in the comments, I want to know what you guys expect for the New York Jets in their training camp. What do you expect for this season? It's time to get hyped. The New York Jets haven't really had something to be hyped about as much, like to this magnitude, for a very long time. So now we're finally here. I don't feel bad if you have all the expectations, if you're setting high standards for these guys, because you deserve it. You've been through enough bad football that it's finally time. Got a quarterback, and hopefully this can help Zach Wilson, so when Aaron Rodgers walks out the door, Zach Wilson steps back in, and now he's primed and ready. So that's going to do it for today's video, and let me know what you think about the video. Of course, like and subscribe for more content. Liking the video will help push this out to the algorithm, and we love that. So want to know what you guys think in the comments, like I said. But next time you see me, we'll be hitting the field for the New York Jets. Thank you for watching as always, and now we out.